All right, thank you so much for joining the channel. If you've been with us for long, you know that we specialize in solar education. Our job is just trying to get more solar education out there to consumers to protect them from predatory solar practices, the kind of door-to-door sleazy used car salesman kind of things, that the high pressure tactics that we're seeing in the industry. So please watch the rest of our content. Please subscribe. It helps us grow the channel. And hopefully if you have questions, you'll feel free to reach out to us. Comment. I respond to those comments myself. If you want to reach out to us in other ways, check out our website, give us a call, shoot us an email. All right, the number one type of Texan that should not go solar are older retirees on a fixed income. Now, why do I say that? Well, mainly it has to do with your return on investment and the cost of going solar. If you're looking to just save money and you're an older retiree on a fixed income, then you're going to end up shouldering the entire cost of that system because most likely the tax credit is not going to be available to you. Now, we do have a 30% federal tax credit right now, but that is available to consumers and customers that have some sort of tax liability. So if you are working a W-2 job or you have your own business and you're making a lot of money, or if you're in the stock market and you're getting taxed on capital gains and you have a larger tax liability, you'll be able to recoup that 30% federal tax credit pretty quickly, and that will help reduce the overall cost of going solar. But if you're retired on a fixed income, maybe you're only drawing $15,000, $20,000 a year, you're not going to have a heavy tax burden, which means that you're going to end up having to pay for that entire system, and it's not going to be subsidized at all, which brings down your return on investment, which if you're only looking to go solar to save money, it may be more expensive at that point than just sticking with your standard utility, because you're not going to be able to get that price brought down and subsidized by that tax benefit that the broad majority of other Texans, especially full-time working Texans, are able to take advantage of. So just consider that if your only goal is to save money and you're on a fixed income, you're an older retirement type of person, if you're in that group, you may not want to decide to go solar. You may just want to write it out. It all depends on how the math works out and if it's actually going to save you money, and if you're still going to be able to make that payment if you're financing it and it all makes sense. All right, the number two type of Texan that shouldn't go solar is the Texan that's planning on moving anyway. If this is your primary house now, but then you are planning a move, you want to leave the house, you're maybe looking at going with a larger home or just moving from one part of Texas to the other, it's not a good idea to go solar. My rule of thumb is for customers is if you're not going to be in that house for the next 7 to 10 years, if you really don't see yourself staying in that house for the next 7 to 10 years, it's not a good idea to go solar. And the reason why is because you'll never get your money back. So this whole thing works in that you are basically spending a certain amount of money to put in solar. So you are prepaying essentially your utility bill. You're trying to pay a certain amount of money to produce a certain amount of electricity over the next 30 years so that you have some kind of fixed cost and you're not competing against these rising and escalating utility rates. But that only pays off for you if you stay in the home long enough to benefit from that exchange. So if you have a payback period of 10 to 12 years, and what a payback period is, it's the amount of time that will have passed where you will have paid as much money for your system in utility bills, okay, as you actually did for your system, which means that once you hit that point where you've spent enough on your system as you would have anyway in utility bills, that kind of puts you to that baseline, that zero. And then every month after that, or every year after that, you're now cost avoidance. You are now saving money because you're not having to pay utility bills. So whatever that time period is, maybe it's 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, that all is determined by what the cost of your electricity is today and also in the future. Whatever that time period is, you want to make sure that you're staying in that house at least that amount of time. Now, if you plan on moving, maybe you're in a starter home and you plan on keeping that home as a rental, then solar is not a bad idea because you could just pass that cost on to your renter. You could say, say, okay, I'm going to add an extra $200 onto their rent so that I could recoup my investment, and then they'll be happy because they're not having to pay these increasing utility bills. You could do something like that. But if you're looking at just being in a home for only a few more years, maybe 5 to 7 years, and then selling, do not go solar. You won't get your money back out of the actual system, and you'll end up wasting money, because when you walk away from that house, that system's still going to be there, and you still have to have paid for that system even if it's financed. So probably not a great idea. I'd go ahead and wait until you find your forever home, or at least the home you're going to be in for the next 10 to 12 years. All right, the third type of Texan that probably should not go solar is if you are living in an area with really reliable electricity and really low utility rates. So for most folks, they're looking to protect their power, and they want to insulate themselves from grid outages. So they'll go solar and couple it with the battery. Some folks are wanting to save money because they're in a part of Texas with really high utility rates, and they just want to save money. But if you're in an area of Texas where you have really low utility rates and really reliable electricity, then that really doesn't apply to you. And so I would say for most of those customers, just wait, just give it time, because if your utility rates are low now, they will go up. They will go up inevitably. They will definitely catch up with you. But the tax IRA, this whole 30% tax credit that we have, which came in last year as a result of the Senate passing that IRA bill, that is a 30% tax credit for all solar investments for homeowners for the next 10 years. So there's no rush. You don't have to go solar this year. You don't have to go solar next year. Just decide to go solar when it makes sense. So when those electric rates get high enough to where now you're actually looking at saving some money, then go ahead and decide to make the investment at that time. Or if your grid becomes unreliable, even though you've been experiencing a lot of reliability, then maybe decide to go solar at that time. But you don't have to go solar today knowing that utility rates will go up and get more expensive, or your currently reliable grid will get more unreliable later. Those things are most likely true. That's most likely this scenario. But you don't have to go solar today. Just wait until those utility rates go up, or wait until you start to have some serious grid reliability issues before going solar, and save yourself thousands of dollars now, knowing that you can still take advantage of that tax credit for the next 30 years, or excuse me, that tax credit for the next 10 years anyway at that 30% rate, and you'll be good to go. The number 4 type of Texan that should not go solar is the type of Texan that does not do their research. Please do not just open your door to the first door knocker, or answer the phone to the first phone call that you get from some cold call sleazy solar salesman. Do your research. Okay, this is a very large investment. Second to your mortgage, this is probably the biggest investment that you make in your home. Many of you probably have cars that are more expensive than your solar system, but most people do not. But when we're looking at a home investment, this is the single largest home investment you could make, shy of maybe adding a big pool or something like that. But we're talking about lots of money. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, specifically if you own your solar, which is what we encourage everyone to do. So do your research. Make sure that you're not just making a quick decision. Make sure that you are taking advantage of counter proposals, calling other companies like our company, getting a counter proposal. Do some research online, on YouTube, understand the product, understand what your utility does with the net metering credits, or understand what your utility does with the extra power that you produce. These are things that you need to know in order to make sure that you're making the right decision, and that you're not making a decision that's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars later because you didn't take your time and you didn't do your research. So make sure you do your research. Number 5, the 5th type of Texan that probably shouldn't go solar, at least right now, is the Texan that just moved into their home. Now, many people are just moving here to Texas, or they're moving throughout Texas. They're building a home, or they just moved into a home and they're thinking about going solar. I'm not saying don't go solar ever. I'm just saying don't go solar right now. And the reason is because we don't have a baseline for your electric consumption. What you want is you want to properly design your solar system so it will cover at a minimum your base electric consumption over a 12-month period, and then you want to build a little bit more in most cases so that you can cover the future expansion of your home. Maybe you're adding a hot tub, or you're adding an electric vehicle or something like that to your electric profile, and you'll consume more electricity later. Or maybe you have 2 small kids now and they're going to grow up and use more electricity later. You definitely want to scale your solar system appropriately, because you don't want to underbuild your system just to save some money, or because you underestimated your consumption, and then you're back in high utility bills in just a few years. And you definitely don't want to spend too much on your system where you're just overbuilding it dramatically and you're not able to really consume all of that power, and maybe you're in a part of Texas where there's not really strong net metering or buyback options. Then you're just wasting money. So we always encourage our customers to wait at least 6 months, preferably 12 months, before you decide to go solar if you're just moving into a home, if it's a brand new home, so that we can get an understanding of what your electric usage is like. You're going to have different appliances than you had in your previous home. It's going to be different square footage, different levels and quality of installation. You want to make sure that you get a really true understanding of what your baseline consumption is, so that you can appropriately scale your system and not end up wasting money or not spending enough money and underbuilding your system so that the system doesn't actually meet your goals. So that's the number 5 type of Texan that I'd encourage, not just to not go solar, but just wait before going solar so that you could scale that system right, and then it meets your energy goals at the end. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining the channel. Thanks so much for listening to the top 5 reasons why I think certain groups should not go solar. But if you have any questions, reach out to us, drop a comment below. I'm not always right about these things, but these are things that I typically tend to bring up and to help customers make an informed decision. So reach out to us, give us a call, send us a text message. Feel free to drop a comment, and I'll make sure to respond to that quickly. Thank you so much, and God bless.